coming into the 2009-2010 scholastic school year was one of reform. We wanted to recreate our image on campus into something more positive than what we were generally perceived as.
I think everyone sort of felt like they wanted to prove themselves. This year was a year of change. I don't allow a lot of the same things that I think were allowed in past presidencies. Last year, there were people who were found smoking weed in the house, and that's not something that I would tolerate. There would be no second chances. We don't have room for that.
We were trying to work really hard to get ourselves off of probation, and we had community events planned. Like anything we could find, we were trying to help out and trying to make a better name for this house.
This was an event we actually did get to host, was our annual Smashing Pumpkins event. And shortly after Halloween, people can come and smash a pumpkin for charity, get their mid-semester frustrations out and whatnot.
It's just fun, you know. Everybody just wants to smash a pumpkin every now and then.
One of our house members actually spent the last summer in Kenya at an orphanage helping sustainable farming, and their whole project was to build a tilapia farm, a fish farm, so that they could be self-sustainable and feed themselves. And we actually raised half of the total money needed for that project.
Let's get ourselves back with a good name in the college so we can do better things in the community.
On December 5th, actually, we had an incident. We'd had no previous conduct problems at all since I was instated as president.
There was a member of the Arts Haüs who violated various policies pertaining to campus. As I understand it, it was in relation to alcohol.
This individual decided to throw a birthday party for themselves.
The party was to celebrate my 20th birthday.
The rest of the house knew there was a party. They did not know the full extent of the actions taken within the party.
It went fine. It wasn't too big. There was underage drinking. And later that night, I had gotten locked out of my room, and I had called DPS to let me back into my room.
While they were there, the fire alarm went off, and as they were doing their safety check, they noticed that, that someone had been in the basement, obviously playing, some drinking game.
When the two officers took me down to the basement to talk to me about what had happened, I made it very clear that I took full responsibility for my party and it had nothing to do with the house. They assured me that it indeed would not reflect back on the house.
As far as we understood from the DPS officers that wrote that person up, the house was not to get in any trouble. So in that sense, we weren't really worried about anything. It was like, okay, this person got in trouble, so that's that, and that has nothing to do with us.
When I got back to school, I sat down and had a meeting with someone in student life. I told her what had happened and again reiterated that this is my responsibility and that I didn't want it to reflect back on the house. She told me that she had no control over that, so I was obviously worried.
Coming back second semester, the heads of house received a letter saying that they had a hearing.
And I was like, what hearing? Regarding what incident?
Our co-presidents, John and Annabelle, met with a panel consisting of
an administrator, a faculty member, and a student.
So when I went into this, I was under the assumption that this was sort of a questioning of us regarding the incident and the student, and not a question about the house.
I was reprimanded by the school separately and had to go through my own trial, and I honestly see no reason why the house also had to go through a trial when I had already been punished.
The charges being placed against the house after this incident were alcohol and complicity. We pleaded not responsible, not guilty, on the basis that no one in the house had bought the alcohol, and obviously we were not compliant because shortly after that particular hearing, we actually removed her from the program.
I do kind of acknowledge that the Arts House took action, but I think that I felt that the action was taken a little bit late.
It was said to me almost verbatim.
If a child throws a rock at a car, the child is not responsible, the parent is.
To which I replied, understandably, if the child is under 18 and you're that child's legal guardian. However, this student is not under 18.
This disciplinary hearing determined that the house would be suspended.
The review panel found us guilty for alcohol and complicity.
Any student or organization in our community standards procedures has the option to appeal a decision.
The House got behind an effort known as Save the House.
The House was appealing on the basis that the decision made by the panel was overly strict.
As soon as we were notified of the suspension, literally everyone sprang into action.
The individuals in the House got petitions signed, made banners.
We made a Facebook group. We had over 1,000 followers on Facebook within just a few days.
And a lot of alumni had gotten together and expressed that without the Arts House, you know, what would have Dickinson been to them, and they didn't want to pay, you know, money to Dickinson anymore if the Arts House had left.
Over the course leading up to the appeal, we had over 70 letters from alums, faculty of the college. We had parents, we had housers, sort of expressing their concerns for Dickinson without an Arts House.
I got involved as an advisor within the judicial process. I wrote a resolution on behalf of Student Senate a couple of days before the actual appeal itself, saying that Student Senate supports the Arts House as an organization on campus.
I would say that almost everyone from the House showed up to Senate. We were actually asked to all stand up, and it was extremely obvious that there were probably as many people there as senators.
And it was approved by a majority.
Eventually, when we went into the panel of 3 people, we had this binder which we presented to them, which we'd hope they would read.
This included a revised constitution approved by the entire House, which it was unanimously approved, as well as certain recommendations on other sanctions. Some of these sanctions included being a dry house for 2 years, which means no alcohol even for the people that were 21 or over.
It includes 200 hours of community service per semester until our suspension day. This is supposed to be in place of suspension.
A cooperation with DPS on a regular basis.
This was the community involvement proposals. These are all the events and full write-ups that we came up with in ways to give back to our community.
I do feel that these sanctions were more appropriate to the Arts House.
In our appeal, which was at 8:30 in the morning, we presented them with our binder. It felt very rushed to me, the whole appeal process.
The appeal lasted somewhere along the lines of 15 minutes, and the binder of letters was pretty much returned to us immediately.
They didn't even read through the binder that we gave them, and they jumped quickly to their conclusion.
I think that the House was very committed to change at the time. However, the appeal was not successful, and this sanction for the suspension was held.